Rhema Radio is a non-profit initiative by the Love Malaysia Media Project. Time, talent and treasure is put into creating the content you listen to. Your support enables us to keep this going and expand further. Log on to www.rhemarad.io/support to find out how you can partner with us in creating value-adding content that ministers to the masses. Once again, that's www.rhemarad.io/support. Let's get the word out there.
Hi friends! Weekly 20-minute sermons is now released every Wednesday and is called the Midweek Service. This week's word is on a topic of finance entitled The Tale of Two Debts. You may know someone who needs to hear that word. And now, for this week's interview.
I found it on Rhema Radio.
You're tuned in to Rhema Radio, the weekly podcast on faith, culture, music and more. I'm your friendly host Sheila Singham, and with me today is Johnson Ooi, the founder and chief executive officer of EPIC Collective. EPIC, by the way, is the acronym for Extraordinary People Impacting Community. Extraordinary is what you would use to describe Johnson. He's led a life full of eclectic experiences, culminating in his chosen path of social entrepreneurship. Whether he's building homes for the Orang Asli community or launching new ventures, Johnson is committed to building a better world through EPIC. His dedication earned him a place on Forbes' list of under 30 Asia social entrepreneurs in 2016. He's here to talk to us about EPIC Homes and how we as a community can be involved. Before we talk about EPIC Homes and what you're doing, Johnson, tell us a little bit more about yourself. What were you doing before you started EPIC? Tell us about your journey.
Wow.
People always want to know the man behind the project, So where did this whole concept come from? What were you doing before that? What was your growing up years like?
Right. I don't know. I can't say that I had a unique childhood or anything like that. I just remember moving around a lot. Different states in Malaysia and into different kinds of neighborhood. I grew up most of my life in Damansara Jaya, in PJ, Selangor. But prior to that, I was in Pandamaran Klang. So it's quite a contrast. Growing up in different neighborhoods. But I suppose one of the most defining moments in my life was when my father passed away when I was 13. And so that, in that sense, was a shocker, to my family and I, and that led to my mom having to go out to work. So with that being said, you can imagine a 13-year-old with two other brothers, 11 and 16, having a lot of freedom, and so while we were supposed to be in school, sometimes we wouldn't be there. We basically tried a lot of different things at a very young age, So by the time I think I was in university, I studied communications and media management, and the idea was really to just broaden my horizons or do as many things as possible so that I can get a good grasp of perhaps what I wanted to do with life. But at the end of it, I at the end of studies at least, I realized that I wasn't sure. I wasn't very sure. And so at that point in time, I looked to what I was passionate about, to perhaps lead me to what I wanted to do. And at that time, I suppose, or rather my passion has always been in sports and fitness, in the outdoors. And so I remember before I graduated, I told my mom that I wanted to be a jet ski operator, or you can pretty much call it a beach bum. Be in the outdoors, be able to swim all day, scuba dive, climb rocks, and make that a career.
And what did your mother say to that?
She was actually quite understanding. I think perhaps she was already quite used to me coming up with such suggestions. She was like, "Oh, okay, maybe you want to take a little bit more time to think about it."
What an awesome mom.
No, I think she had already been used to a lot of surprises like this, So after a while, I think she learned how to manage me and manage her own expectations with me. Yeah. So during school time, I remember that my brothers and I, we started working pretty early because we needed to earn our own pocket money.
You did some modeling as well, huh?
Yes, that's right. So I knew that was going to come up. Well, besides doing modeling, well, in fact, modeling was what paid a lot of bills. You didn't really have to do much to
Just stand there and look good.
Pretty much. I stood there. I'm not sure if I looked good. But besides that, I also got my hands, involved in many different things as well, from a little bit of market research, a little bit of retail, a little bit of production, a little bit of events and team building. So basically, people would just call us and say, "Hey, Johnson, are you free this weekend? I have a job for you." It's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. So at the end there, I knew everything that I didn't want to do, because I tried the office, I tried outdoors, I tried all these different things. I knew everything that I didn't want to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it was around, I think, in terms of what led me to YBhg, it was around probably my university years where I got involved with this casual group. And in fact, it was put together by my mother and her mentee, who said that she was looking for young people to mentor because that was what she believed was her calling. And so that led to this Monday casual nights meeting up. I wouldn't even call it a CG. I think it's more like a leadership development program, but looking at kingdom values and saying, how can you actually translate that to real life? So while we were, I think, playing around in the world and all that kind of stuff, we were also very curious as to, how does all these altruistic values actually apply to real life? And so it was really just an open platform for a bunch of 18 to 22, 23-year-olds to come together and just kind of vent out of frustrations and also just be vulnerable and open to one another and encouraging as well. I think one of the things that bothered us was the fact that as we were growing older, people were saying that once you graduate from university, then that's where real life starts. All this ideal values that you have, you can just toss it out the window because only the strong survive. Or at least that was what the people around, the older people that around me were saying. And so part of me was didn't want to let go of those ideals, and I wanted to see how can it actually be effective, And so one of the things that we're always talking about was how we should look at nation transformation. We should look at impacting our community. It shouldn't just be talking, but by the time we realized that, we had already been doing this for the last 4 years, which is actually very good in terms of relationship building, in terms of building our own convictions, but we realized that we hadn't done anything yet.
Great. We'll be back. We're taking a short break.
Hi, I'm Lee Wee Min with Focus on the Family Malaysia. If anyone needs some resources on family life and family relationships, do visit us at our website www.family.org.my.
I'm Bishop Aaron Yap, the Bishop of the Lutheran Church in Malaysia. One of my favorite Bible verses is taken from Psalm 116, verses 12 to 13. What shall I repay to the Lord for all His goodness to me? I will lift up the cup of salvation and call on the name of the Lord.
I am Pastor Elisha Satpinder from New Covenant Community Sentul and Dignity for Children Foundation in Sentul as well. I want to invite you to come and participate in amazing work that God is doing in transforming lives, especially the marginalized, from preschool right up till Form 5, IGCSE, and different expressions of vocational through the cafes, things like Project B, urban gardens, various things that we are doing. If you will go to our website, www.dignityforchildren.org, get more information, give us a call, and make a difference in a child that will transform the city for us.
Rhema Radio. You're tuned in to Rhema Radio, your weekly podcast on faith, culture, music, and more. You're here with Sheila Singham, speaking to Johnson Oye, the founder and chief executive officer of Epic Collective. So, you were saying earlier that you were thinking about all of this, but not actually doing anything. So that was when the seed for Epic was planted. When did it actually start sprouting?
Right. So it was an idea, but to be honest, its origins was really born out of guilt. So we were about to graduate and enter the workforce, and we were saying, hey, we're going to get so busy and we won't be able to follow through with this community impact sort of thing. So we then became desperate, looking around, saying who we could help out, and so we got to know of this guy called Sebastian, who is working in Orang Asli village around the Hulu Selangor area. Right. And somehow or other we got in contact with him and asked him, hey, we want to help you. He says, why don't you follow us to the village and see what can you actually do with the community. And so we went down, and I remember how there's this desperation just to want to do something, and of course in retrospect, like I said earlier, it's out of guilt. At that time, you would think, it's altruism. It's, just your pure enthusiasm to make a difference. But it was really just out of guilt.
Because you've been talking and not doing.
Exactly. And we were saying, by the time we get to work, there won't be any more time to do these things. Or at least that's what we thought. So after a couple of, that one meeting led into a few more meetings. And in, I think, the third meeting with this family in Hulu, somewhere in Hulu Selangor, we found out that they needed a toilet and a shower place, and their houses needed repainting. Yeah, and so we pretty much just jumped at that opportunity because it came from their mouth itself. That was after a couple of discussions. And we suggested it to them and say, that sounds like a great idea. Actually, that's something that we need. It wasn't so much for them, but it was more so for to attract teachers, to come into their village and be able to teach their people and make it at least conducive for them, because they didn't have a toilet then. And so that led to the first toilet building project. So I wouldn't even say that the seed of Epic was planted way back, perhaps, but it wasn't even called Epic.
We can call it Humble Beginnings.
Humble Beginnings, yeah, I think that you can call it that. And so toilet building project, we put it on Facebook, realized that no one's going to join a bunch of strangers who doesn't have any track record in the middle of the jungle for a weekend, because, it sounds like a good starting to a horror movie or serial killer movie.
But there's a lesson in there.
Yeah.
Toilet building can lead to things epic.
Hey, exactly. I think
that could be your tagline.
Yeah,
that could be your tagline.
Everything starts, I think, with humble beginnings.
Yeah.
And so halfway through, we realized that we needed a name that made us sound credible, at least. And so we like the word epic. The word epic stands for a story of greatness, of great heroics, and I think we all saw our lives as an epic, and somehow that resonated with the team. And of course, thanks to Google, searching the different acronyms that was possible, I remember joining two that we liked, which basically form extraordinary people impacting community. And there was the name Project Epic because we intended it to be just that one project, and that was it. And that itself was a life-changing experience to me. I believe that's when I found my purpose. The event was wonderful. People came together from different places. Within 1.5 weeks, we got 64 people that signed up. And I have to admit that I was very cynical because this was my first time doing a community service project. And so I thought people will probably do what I'll do and click ignore on Facebook. But in 1.5 weeks, we got 64 people, and these weren't people that I knew. They were strangers. Out of 64, maybe 10 people were guys that were familiar to me, and then the rest were total strangers. And these guys weren't just Malaysian. We had Vietnamese, we had Swedish, Korean, Japanese, South African. So that itself was quite mind-blowing. It's like, where does all these people come from? And we had a wonderful time, and I think we accomplished what we set out to do, the toilets and the painting. But what really stuck to me was 2 realizations. The first was that, contrary to what people say, especially about Malaysians, we are hungry to serve. We want to make a difference. And I'm talking about more than just putting money into a box and hoping that things are going to be all right. But I think people want to get their hands dirty. They want to be able to connect at a grassroots level and see how their efforts actually turn into something impactful and life-changing. The problem with current situation is that people don't know where to go, what to do, who to do it with, how to go about it. So a lot of times people say, I want to help. You say, yeah, okay, here's a box, put the money in it, and we'll take care of it. So that was the first realization. The second was more personal. And I asked myself, because I had a fantastic time. I'm not just talking from a sense of fulfillment or reward in helping people. I mean, of course, that was there. But it was really in terms of my own development. That paradigm shift from thinking that no one cared, to seeing so many people turn up. And so I asked myself, how come I've never done anything like that before? Was it because I didn't care? But I thought about it and I said, I do care. I did care all this while, but how come I wasn't driven to action? Was it because, I just didn't care enough? And I pretty much thought about it really hard and realized that it wasn't because of that. It was purely because I felt alone. I felt like that little effort that I could put in with the amount of time that I have, with all that I am, wasn't going to amount to much. And quite logically, if I were to put in something as an individual, 10 other people may come and just mess it up. So why bother in the first place? But that itself was a life-changing experience. From thinking that someone's going to stab me in the back the moment I turn around, to know that there are people that are consciously looking to pay forward and not wanting anything in return. That was really life-changing. And so from those 2 realizations, I then committed myself to seeing how far could I actually take this. And so that led to the next 3 months, and I asked for extension from my mom.
Radio. I'm Edwin Marsden, and I would like to pray for the migrants of Europe. We just bring, O Lord Father, the migrants in Europe to you. Lord, it is not your will that any should perish, but all come to your saving knowledge. And Lord, what these people have to go through, O Lord Father, I pray, O Lord, that you will use this problem, this situation, these challenges that these people are facing, O Lord Father, for your glory. That through these challenges that these people face, O Lord, they will cry out to a God and they will find you as their loving Savior. And I pray for them, Lord, that your heart will reach out to them. That your hand, O Lord, they will feel your loving touch in the circumstances that they are in. I pray, O Lord Father, that as they come into an encounter with you and cry out to you, O Lord Father, Abba Father, that Lord, they will experience, O Lord, love and peace that they've never experienced before. They will know, O Lord, that truly you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Truly, you are the Son of the living God, O Lord. And Lord, that their lives, O Lord Father, their transformed lives, O Lord Father, will be the light and the salt, O Lord, in that nation that they are in, O Lord. That their lives, O Lord, will be a testimony, O Lord, of a wonderful, loving God, O Lord. Their lives, O Lord Father, will be, O Lord Father, a sweet aroma to those who are in Christ and to those who are perishing. So I pray for this people's group, O Lord, that you will open doors and that you will make ways, O Lord. I pray for the many churches, O Lord, that are doing a good work, O Lord Father, that Lord, they will begin to do God's work, O Lord, that they will bring your word and your word will set them free, O Lord Father. And so, Lord, I thank you, O Lord. I know that your heart is with them, O Lord Father. And I pray, O Lord, that you will raise up an army of people, O Lord, that will go forth, O Lord Father, and bring, O Lord Father, your love to them, O Lord. So I thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Rhema Radio.
So, what were the challenges involved when you first started? I mean, Epic today is involved into almost like a household name, you know. But what were the challenges when you started, and how did you overcome them to take it to where it is today?
I think the first challenge was obviously convincing myself, as to whether this was worthwhile, whether I felt like this was my purpose. And so I realized that the amount of fulfillment that I had received was something that I had never experienced before. I'm not just talking about helping people, but I'm talking about helping people serve the people that they care about. Being able to empower them, being able to inspire them, being able to bring them together, mobilize them. I felt like that was something I was called to do. And so settling that within my heart was important. And then obviously convincing the people around me, especially my mother, that it started with extensions. So it said, okay, 3 months, and then I'll go and find a job. That turned to 6 months. 6 months turned to 1 year. And like, actually, how are you going to sustain yourself? So I think convincing people as well to take this whole thing seriously, my close, my family and my close friends, let alone the public, that we actually want to do something sustainable. So those I believe was the challenge, because getting that sense of conviction and clarity, I believe was of utmost importance, because if I wasn't clear, then I can put all the branding in place and stuff, but no one's going to come and respond to it.
You put forward a very valid point about sustaining yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How did you? How do you?
So honestly, we didn't really have any. Of course, there was the existing model of charity, and that was how we started. And I must say that people are very generous. I believe that the world is what you believe it to be, and I hear a lot of people complaining about how people are stingy, greedy, and I believe that by taking up that sort of belief system, then you attract that sort of thing onto yourself. But in our case, I think when we started, we've been very blessed in that sense from the amount of volunteers we've had and the amount of money that's come through our doors. Because I think when we put our messaging out there, it was really about how, people are hungry to serve. People are hungry to serve. And so it started with just donations coming in. And I must say that money, I wouldn't say a lot of money came in. In fact, our first project required 5,000 ringgit, but it felt like a lot at that time. And there were many different moments that we needed money. But money would come in at the right moment, at the right time. And that was really how we started. Hey guys, here's our bank account. If you like what we do and you want to support it, here you can put money into this place. But later on, we realized that that wouldn't be a very sustainable model, because we wanted to be able to have. We didn't want to adopt the charity model where it was just relying on donations, because at the same time, how I think organizations and charities were structured, it's very top heavy. I think there needs to be a board of trustees. There needs to be an entire board dictating how money is being used, how it flows. But we wanted to be able to be as agile as business enterprises. You see how innovative and how enterprising, businesses can be. Like, how can we actually have that sort of culture, that sort of environment for NGOs? Because when you start something, it's not necessarily the solution for all your problems, and you need different points in time to pivot. And so we needed a financing model that would accommodate that. So later on, we heard about this model called a social enterprise. And I think that was an idea that we thought that only happened in an ideal world. When we started, we said we wanted to be a somewhere in the middle sort of company where we could really focus on making an impact and also sustain ourselves. But it was only, I think, 2013, 3 years later, where we found out that there was an actual movement that was building up, and it just reached our shores in Malaysia. And so that really helped validate our model, where you could actually impact people and also make money at the same time. Yeah.
That's great. That's a great message. So social entrepreneurship is alive and well in Malaysia, and you are testimony to the fact that it can work. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Johnson, for being with us today and telling us about your journey, your epic journey, I would say. That's another epic that needs to be written about. I'm your friendly host, Sheila Singham, and you just listened to Johnson Ooi speaking about Collective Epic, his company, and how it has contributed towards the community. Thank you for tuning in.
It's not a drill. You can't tell the skies by the way you feel. Wake up, it's night. You're gonna stand up. Come on, stand up and fight. Price to pay. They run away. Are you gonna stay? The higher price you pay, the more they'll want to know. Choices uneasy, it'll make you look crazy, baby. Sense of urgency, uncommon vocation, calm dislocation, maybe. You were told a lie. And then you found the answers true. Still choices uneasy, it'll make you look crazy.
segment features music by Unabashed. Today's episode is edited, mixed and recorded by Moses Chang at Rodeo Studio. If you have not heard this week's word, catch Pastor Joseph Gunn's sermon entitled The Tale of Two Dads. Have an overcoming week ahead.
I found it on Rhema Radio.